The Minnesota Vikings against the Detroit Lions.
It is 31 degrees outside in Pontiac, but inside the Silverdome, it is 70 degrees as the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions meet in what could very well be billed the Desperation Bowl. The Lions have just lost the toss, so they will be kicking to Minnesota, each club coming in with the identical record of 7-7 in pursuit of Tampa Bay. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Hank Stram, and with 80,000 people here at the Silverdome, looking forward to another thriller. The last time these two teams met, Minnesota pulled it out in the last 4 seconds on a field goal by Rick Danmeyer, 26-24. Eddie Payton, among other things, has busted a kickoff 99 yards for a touchdown against Oakland this year. Perhaps his greatest day, ironically, 4 years ago when he was with Detroit. Payton had his biggest day against Minnesota. Murray thumps it deep. And Payton will take it on the 1. And he is buried as he got across the 15-yard line, and there's a player down for Minnesota. Here's the way Minnesota will stack up. Tommy Kramer at the wheel trying to snap a 3-game losing streak. The Vikes have lost 5 out of 7. Ted Brown and Ricky Young, the running backs. Rashad and White, the wide receivers. Riley, Huff, Swilly, Hamilton, and Yari up front, and the tight end returning to the wars. He has caught 71 passes this year, the most in the NFC by a tight end. Joe Sensor, he was unable to play last week against Chicago. Robin Sendline, a linebacker, and one of the key men on the special teams, hurt on that kickoff and return by Eddie Payton. Minnesota will put the ball in play, 1st and 10 from their own 15. The Vikings are number 3 in total defense. They are number 2 against the rush, number 9 against the pass. And they will be tested in a moment, and we hope that Robin Sendline is only shaken up. Sendline is a rookie from Texas, 23 years old, and evidently is in reasonable good shape.
One thing we should note, Ben, is the fact that the last this team, talking about the Minnesota Vikings, have won 23 of 27 games that they've played recently, and that's really quite an accomplishment.
In talking about numbers, to give you an idea, Hank, of the Minnesota problem today, the Detroit Lions are 12-2 in their last 2 years at the Silverdome, and their only defeats last year, they lost by 1 point to the Colts, and they lost in overtime to the Bears. They're undefeated this year. Here comes Kramer, 1st and 10 from the 15. Sammy White goes left, Ahmad Rashad right, and you have Brown at fullback along with Ricky Young. Brown trying to get outside and then had to cut back. Dave Purifoy, number 75, rode Wes Hamilton, the blocker, and turned the play in. Good play by Purifoy.
Yes, he really did an excellent job. He came up the field, played the block of the offensive tackle, and forced it inside, and for that reason, they didn't make much yardage on the play.
You can notice that at right end is Curtis Green instead of Al Baker. Cobb, Fantetti, and White are the linebackers. Smith, Hunter, Oldham, and Allen in a somewhat beaten-up secondary. We'll tell you about that in a moment. Second down and 13. Sammy White to make the reception at the 22-yard line, and they'll give him a little more to the 23.
Sammy White really did a good job that time. They were in bump and run. The left cornerback, Wayne Smith, was in bump and run with him. He hit him and then came back for the ball. Looks like he was covered pretty well, but he came back for the ball. They make the reception, and they have a pretty good start on the 1st down.
So it is 3rd and 3. The ball is on the Viking 23-yard line. Terry LeCount is wide right. Rashad and White are slot left. Sensor is on a wing, and now there goes White in motion. Kramer over the middle to Joe Sensor. Spencer, the tight end, to the 39-yard line and the first down. So instead of being a tight end, he was somewhat flexed and almost in a wing position, and that's his 72nd catch, Hank. He's quite a guy to have around.
Yeah, you know, he's a great athlete. He played college basketball, has a great feel for the open area, and he has a great ability to get into the zones between the linebackers and the defensive back. That's exactly what he did that time. Kramer did a super job of reading the defense and got the ball to the right man.
And yet Spencer says if he had his druthers, he'd rather be a hockey player. He loves that sport. This is work. First and 10 on the Viking 39. White and Spencer on the left. Rashad again on the right. And in motion is Sammy White. Kramer handing off to Ted Brown, and they swallow him up. Brown coming into this game needs only 8 yards rushing to give him 1,000. He would be the first Viking back for 1,000 since Chuck Foreman, and of course the great Foreman did it 3 times.
You know, the Lions have great balance on defense. They're third in total defense, second against the run, 9 against the pass, and an offense. They're third totally, second against the run, 9 against the pass. When you talk about balance, they have it.
Well, we'll see Minnesota test Detroit now because Detroit was riddled by the Green Bay passing attack. This is second and 11 on the Viking 38. LeCount is right, White and Rashad left. Kramer going over to the left side, and Sammy White takes a hit at the 49-yard line of Detroit, and that's enough for a first down. Last week, it was Lofton, Jefferson, and Kaufman. This week, it'll be Rashad, White, and Spencer.
There you see the bump and run. You see the outside receiver, number 28, James Hunter, covering. You see Sammy White coming underneath. The ball is thrown right on the numbers to Sammy White. He's finally made being tackled there, but not until after he makes the first down.
Rashad left and White right. Spencer's on the right side. Kramer hurrying the ball to Ricky Young, and Young is going to be punished, and down he goes immediately. Ray Oldham, who is quite a gutsy player. Oldham at safety is playing on 2 bad knees, number 23, and he's already had arthroscopic surgery on one of them, and Oldham is still out there playing on the rug.
You know, one thing that you have to do against Minnesota, against Tommy Kramer, is a great young quarterback, has a great capacity to read defense and get rid of the ball quickly, but you have to harass him. You're not necessarily going to sack him, but you have to make him hurry his throw off balance, and if you're able to do that, then you control him pretty well.
The Detroit pass rush is called the Silver Rush. They have 44 sacks this year. Second and 12 on the Viking 49. And Kramer just does unload, and it is broken up by Hunter. It was intended for Terry LeCount, and did they ever put heat on Kramer? And there's a flag on the play.
And Wayne Smith, the left cornerback, was blitzing on the play. Here we see the rush, and watch 44, Wayne Smith, number 44, coming from the outside. They got him on the nutcracker. Also, 23, Oldham was coming, and they put the squeeze on him.
Defense, roughing the passer, number 44. First down.
This is a good time to tell you that Detroit leads the NFL in penalized, with New Orleans, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Washington back of them. All of the others, of course, with losing records, and Detroit fighting the rule book are 500. First and 10 on the 35. And there's a missed handoff, and yet it works as Brown carries to about the 27-yard line after bumping into Kramer, and it could be Detroit lost him for a minute.
Yeah, the mesh between the ball carrier and the left guard. Jim Ho, watch it. The mesh is not good, but in spite of that, Brown gets through the hole and makes a nice gain in the play. And that's what happens sometimes in that kind of a play. You think the play is not going to succeed. You kind of let up a little bit, and the next thing you know, the guy runs for extra yardage.
Second and 2 on the Detroit 27-yard line. Just the start of the ball game. Ted Brown again, and Brown is to the 20-yard line. James Hunter, among others, in on the tackle. talking before about the secondary for Detroit. As we duck in a final, the Jets beat Cleveland 14-13, so the Jets are still very alive, and they have a big game next week with Green Bay. 1st and 10, the ball is just shy of the Detroit 20-yard line. Bud Grant has not lost 4 in a row since 1967. That was his first 4 as a Viking coach. Kramer, no good to censor. Flag on the play. Ray Oldham was there as Censor tried to make a one-hand catch. Preliminary signal holding against Minnesota.
And it looks like it might be the right tackle, Ron Yeri. We'll see in a minute, but we'll find. It looked like it might have been the right tackle.
Offense holding number 73.
That's going to be quite a battle between Ron Yeri and Dave Purifoy. Purifoy, number 75, and Yeri, 73. Purifoy has 11 sacks to lead the Silver Rush.
And they saw a lot of Purifoy when he played for the Green Bay Packers, so they've been at it for a long time.
So now it is 1st and 20. The ball back on the Detroit 30-yard line. LeCount wide right and White in a slot with Rashad on the left side. And Brown on a little screen. White tried to turn him in, and White had him in his grasp and lost him. Brown chased by Cobb, and Cobb drags him down at the 30-yard line. So White had him, that's Stan White, and Gary Cobb finally got him from behind.
And White really did a great job of getting out into the area from his right linebacker position. A quick screen out here to the left side to Brown. And you watch White come into the picture. He kind of overruns the play a little bit, was not under complete control, not good balance. He missed the tackle. Brown escapes the grasp, runs all the way over to the right side, and is finally tackled by Gary Cobb.
So it'll be 2nd and 20 from the 30-yard line for Tommy Kramer. Kramer, deep down the middle, no good. It was intended for Sammy White, and right there with him was Wayne Smith, number 44.
Kramer knew exactly where he wanted to go. He got man-for-man coverage with Wayne Smith, number 44, covering. He got the ball to the right guy, but it was overthrown and falls incomplete. That's what he's looking for. He's looking, especially in this part of the field from the 30-yard line in, he's looking for one-on-one situations. With the great receiving they have, they feel they can lick anybody if they have the time enough to throw the ball.
Ted Brown, the multi-purpose back, needed 8 yards to go for 1,000, and that's where he is right now. He has joined the illustrious Chuck Foreman in the Minnesota Bucks. 3rd and 20. And he'll go to Brown. And Brown is tackled at the 21-yard line, and it was White again who had him from behind. In looking at Wayne Smith getting up, we mentioned that the secondary is really beaten up for Detroit. Wayne Smith has broken his left thumb twice, and he's still playing. Ray Oldham with 2 bad knees, including arthroscopic surgery. Jimmy Allen had infected toes, and James Hunter broke his arm. That sounds more like the cast from MASH.
And everything other than that, everybody else fine.
Terrific. Here's Dan Meyer with Nord holding at the 30. A 40-yard field goal attempt. It is no good. So the Lions have held. We've got 7 minutes and 5 seconds left in the first quarter. Minnesota, Detroit, no score. Left in the first quarter, no score. We kind of went on the air on horseback, as my mother would say. I'm Vin Scully. This is Hank Stram.
Then we're going to see a great afternoon of football. I'm sure of that, the way this team is. Both teams have started. One on offense, one on defense. We'll see a lot of fireworks.
And we're going to find out about whether Minnesota can beat Detroit twice, trying to do it especially difficult here in the Silver Dome, where the Lions, spurred on by a crowd of 80,000, seem to be so much tougher. And here they come, 1st and 10 on their own 22. Sims and Bussey are the running backs. In motion is David Hill, and Hipple's going to send it up. And it's a screen to Sims, but they box him in hard, and he is dropped at the 20-yard line. Scott Studwell, number 55, making the tackle. Let's set Detroit for you with Eric Eric Hipple at quarterback, Sims and Bussey the running backs, Leonard Thompson and Freddie Scott the wide receivers. The tight end is David Hill, and then you have Balderschweiler, Elias, Fowler, Bollinger, and Dorney up front.
Holloway really made a great play that time. They had to throw over the top of him. That's why the defense was able to respond as well as they did. He almost came up with an interception.
Randy Holloway is 6'5". So those are Eric Hipple's numbers. His best day at 4 touchdown passes against Chicago. 1st and 10 from the 22. And they'll stay on the ground with Billy Sims. Bollinger blocking for him, and Sims carries across the 25 to the 26. Pretty good lead block by number 73, Russ Bollinger.
And the key defensive lead was Tommy Hannon, number 45 from the safety position. Came up very quickly to make the play.
Here's the way the Vikes stack up. Mark Mullaney, James Duck White, and Randy Holloway up front. The linebackers, Blair, Seaman, Studwell, and McNeil. At the corners, John Turner and Willie Teal. Kurt Knopf, a strong safety. Tommy Hannon at free safety. 3rd and 6. The ball on the Detroit 26-yard line. 5:38 left in the quarter. No score. Leonard Thompson and Freddie Scott go left. And with Scott in motion, Hipple bumping into Sims. They set a screen for Sims, and there he goes across the 35 to about the 38-yard line, where Keith Nord had to come up from his safety spot to hammer him. 1st down.
You know, that time, Ben, the bump might have been very good for the success of the play, because the one thing you don't want to do is hurry over there too quickly. The bump slowed him down just enough for the linebackers to get more depth. And for that reason, they had enough room, made the catch, got up the field in good shape, and made the 1st down. Good-looking play on the part of the Detroit Lions.
So it'll be 1st and 10. The ball out on the Detroit 38-yard line. In motion is Fred Scott. Moving around was White, and Billy Sims is going to be stacked up at the line of scrimmage. Billy Sims needing only 53 yards to break his own Lion record of 1,303. What makes it remarkable, he missed 2 games this year because of a toe injury. The Vikings will be tested, Hank. Detroit, the number 3 offense in the NFC.
Yeah, the nice thing about Detroit is they have excellent balance. They run the ball 37 times a game and pass it 37 times a game. You can't ask for better balance than that.
2nd and 8 on the 40-yard line. Hipple gonna go deep down the right side. He's got Leonard Thompson dragged out of bounds by Tommy Hannon at the 26-yard line of Minnesota.
Leonard Thompson that time line up on the right side with Tommy Hannon, the free safety covering. They were in a zone. He ran way to the inside and then broke it outside. The ball was thrown perfectly. Hannon had a half of the field that time. Did not have a third of it, just a half. Did not get to the outside in time. Big play, Detroit Lions.
Leonard Thompson, 7 years out of Oklahoma State, makes a big reception. 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 26. And Hipple's going to stay upstairs. No good. In and off the hands of the tight end, David Hill, coming over from the right side. Hill unable to bag it. He had a big day against Green Bay in October. He caught 9, so he might very well be busy.
Yes, and he comes into the game with 30 catches. That ball was thrown a little bit too high, which was obvious. That kind of a ball coming across the middle must be thrown from the shoulder pads down so you can make the catch and keep in stride. The minute you have to jump up in the air for the ball, there's always a possibility of a tip.
That was a glimpse of one of the great kickers in the league, Ed Murray. 2nd and 10 on the Viking 26. Straight ahead and wide open is Vince Thompson, and he's across the 15-yard line to the 14. Vince Thompson, 1 year out of Villanova, and boy, he's a mover.
You talk about a high diddle-diddle right up the middle. There you see good blocking. Elias, number 61, does a good job on the linebacker, number 50, Jeff Seaman, and that's why they succeeded in making a nice gain in the play.
Detroit has not been a great front-running team in the respect that they have led in every game they have played this year, and yet they're only break even at 7-7. David Hill is in motion. Hipple to Billy Sims, and Sims cutting at the 10. He's gonna go in. Touchdown, Billy Sims.
The I formation. He starts to the right, sees the crack on the left side, does a little looky move there in the inside, breaks it to the outside. Good blocking downfield. He goes into the end zone for the touchdown. A beautiful run by Billy Sims in the I formation.
Ed Murray is 38 for 38 in points this year. Make it 39. So Detroit has led in all 15 games this year. Take another look at Billy Sims.
There's another good shot of it. He does a good job of running, makes people miss tackles on the play, and goes all the way in for the touchdown. They go ahead 7-0.
Vin Scully with Hank Stram, and Detroit on Billy Sims' 14-yard burst, leading Minnesota 7-0. 2:56 left in the first quarter. Ed Murray kicking, and there's the drive. The big play, a pass to Leonard Thompson that went to the Minnesota 26. It'll be fielded by Tony Galbraith, and Galbraith at the 4. Dragged down just about the 20-yard line. Alvin Hall, the first man to get down, as Tony Galbraith handles the kickoff. Detroit trying to keep the ball away from Eddie Payton. 7-0 Lions, 2:46 to the first. Tomorrow, another big day on CBS Sports with the NFL. Remember, these teams are still battling for wild cards. The Giants at St. Louis. Green Bay still very much alive, depending, of course, on the outcome of today's game, plus how Tampa Bay makes out tomorrow. And then in the doubleheader, Chicago at Oakland and Philadelphia at Dallas. Dallas already in the postseason play. Philadelphia trying to get in tomorrow. That'll be right here on CBS. First and 10 on the Viking 20-yard line. 7-0 Detroit. 2:46 left in the first quarter. Kramer low, no good for Ted Brown. And right there was Stan White, number 52, the linebacker who picked him up, coming out of the backfield. The last time these two teams played, back in September, Ted Brown caught 9 passes for 115 yards, so Detroit is very conscious of him.
Yes, and the big thing, as I mentioned earlier, they must put pressure on Tommy Kramer, because if they just let him sit back there, read the defense, he likes to throw to the open man. If he has that opportunity, well, he is really murdered.
So on a 2nd and 10, here's the way the quarterbacks have gone so far today. 2nd and 10 from the 20. Sensor, the tight end, is in motion. Purifoy looked loose, but he did not get to Kramer, and the pass hurried, however. It looked like Minnesota was confused on that, and they let a big dog loose in the backyard.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. They showed up in front that there were going to be a blitz. Then right when the ball was snapped, they all released and went downfield. And there we see Curtis Green, number 62, the rookie from Alabama State, coming in and getting good pressure. He's a 4.7 speed, and they like him very, very much.
Green, of course, playing for Al Baker. Baker out with a stomach pull, has 10 sacks, but he'll be unable to play. So it is 3rd and 10 on the Minnesota 20. In motion is Sammy White. And Kramer scrambled. Doug English brought him down. Doug English, number 78, making the tackle from behind. A big guy at 6'5" and 255, and that is his 9th sack of the year.
Talking to Bud Grant before the game, he says specifically that Doug English has made a big difference because he gives them the good inside pressure that they haven't had. There you see English, number 78, making the sack on Tommy Kramer.
Show you what kind of a day it is for the English family. His sister Tina sang the national anthem. So it's 4th and 16. The ball is back on the 14-yard line. Greg Coleman, whose best day punting was against Detroit. And let's see if there will be 5 yards tacked on. Delay of game. Yep. Coleman, his longest punt, 73 yards. It was against Detroit in their last meeting in September. In that game, Coleman punted 7 times and had an average of better than 50 yards a punt.
That's really booming.
Whoa. Well, Greg Coleman kicking from the end zone. All alone is Robbie Martin standing back on the Detroit 49. Nobody's coming, and Coleman booms it, and Martin takes it at the 45 to the 40, getting away from tacklers to the 30, to the 25. Coleman can't get him. There's a flag on the play. Flag on the play, so let's see. Robbie Martin making the great return, and let's see if it'll go all the way in the books or not. The penalty evidently against Minnesota.
Illegal man downfield, number 54 on the offense. Deploying a penalty, touchdown.
So a legal man downfield. Take another look at Robbie Martin, the rookie out of Cal Poly.
He makes a beautiful run, got into traffic, went through the traffic, came out the other end, running to the outside, makes a little dipsy-do move inside on Coleman, goes into the end zone unmolested for the touchdown. Another 6 points for the Detroit Lions.
Robbie Martin, he's only 5'8", 179-pounder from San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly. And the point, automatic. Ed Murray is 40 for 40, and the Lions are growling, leading 14-0 in the first quarter with 1:39 left.
Keith Nord had a beautiful shot at the tackle. Number 49 just missed the tackle, and that's why he was able to go all the way for the touchdown.
Jim Huff had a shot at him as well. With 1:39 left in the first quarter, Robbie Martin has just run a punt 45 yards for a touchdown. That's the first touchdown return on a punt by a Lion since back in 1977. There's a little pooch kick down the left sideline. Matt Blair touches it as it goes out of bounds, and it went out of bounds at about the Viking 42-yard line. Detroit came into this game, Hank, very worried about Eddie Payton's ability to return.
Matt Blair that time should have signaled for a fair catch. You can do that on a kickoff return. He didn't do that. Despite of that, they still have possession 1st and 10, but he could have caught it and signaled for the fair catch in the process.
There's Robbie Martin, who is euphoric to say the least after that 45-yard touchdown run. You can watch Matt Blair going up in the air, and he just pushed it backwards like a volleyball player hitting it over the net. Smart play, as it turned out.
That he did, and the other option, of course, was to just signal for the fair catch, and it would have been easy for him to make the play.
So the Vikings have it 1st and 10 on their own 41, down 14-0. Sammy White in motion to the left. Kramer throwing in and out of White's hand, and it is picked off by Jimmy Allen. He laterals to James Hunter. Hunter still on his feet, and down he goes. Fumble picked up by Ted Brown. And Ted Brown has the ball, would you believe it, on the Detroit 42-yard line.
That's what happens when you get greedy. You ought to be just satisfied to have the ball and give it to your offense on offense, but instead of that, they try to lateral it. Here's the throw. He throws on the run. The ball is deflected. Intercepted there by number 40, Jimmy Allen. Allen laterals the ball to number 28, James Hunter. James Hunter tries to run with the ball in the wrong arm, knocked loose. Minnesota has a big game.
Kramer gunning it down the middle, intended for Sammy White. Low but too hard, and White unable to come close to it. So it'll be 2nd and 10 on the Detroit 42.
Watch Sammy White coming across the middle. Deflected a little bit, makes a diving attempt but just can't hang on. It would have been a sensational catch.
So Tommy Kramer and the Vikings get their Christmas present early on the interception that winds up recovered by Minnesota for a big first down. And they now have it 2nd and 10 on the Detroit 42. Rashad and White go left. Terry LeCount is wide right. Only Brown is behind Kramer, and they'll go to Ted Brown. Inside Gary Cobb, and he's going to be slung out of bounds by William Gay at the Detroit 25.
That was a blitz. Everybody was blitzing inside, and if you clean it out on the outside with a run or a pass one-on-one, you're going to make a big play. That's exactly what happened on the play. He popped through there, Brown did. William Gay finally made the tackle, but it looked for a moment like he might go all the way.
And the man who had the door pushed open was Gary Cobb, the linebacker on the left side. Minnesota did a good job of just taking him out, and that opened it up for Brown to get down to the Detroit 25 and a 1st and 10. Pretty interesting note about Ted Brown.
Yes, it is. And anytime linebackers blitz, they're eliminated from pursuit, and it makes it easy for a big play if you block everybody.
1st and 10, and there goes Brown again, only this time up the middle, and they stack him. Maybe a gain of a yard or so at most. It'll be 2nd down, almost 9. Eric Hipple, the young quarterback who rose from obscurity after Gary Danielson, Jeff Comlo finally went by the boards. Hipple has done well, and Gary Danielson, the 5-year veteran out of Purdue, who 3 years ago had 5 touchdown passes against Minnesota, and now all he can do is root for Hipple. 2nd and 8 on the Detroit 23. Down the right side, and all alone is Ahmad Rashad, taken down inside the 10-yard line by Gary Cobb, but that's a 1st and goal coming up for Minnesota.
Rashad did a good job of making an outside move on Wayne Smith, number 44. A very simple timing pattern to the outside. Tommy Crater delivers the ball right on the money. Here you see Wayne Smith, number 44, backpedaling. He makes a move to the outside. He drives hard, but he's looking back into the backfield instead of looking at Rashad, and that's why he didn't close the gap and make a better play on the ball.
And the first quarter is history as Detroit leading the Minnesota Vikings 14-0. Rashad and White go left. Sensor, the tight end, is on the right side. The running backs remain Brown and Young. Ted Brown behind Young's block, and he gets to the 5-yard line. So Ricky Young blocking for Ted Brown.
You know, 14 points seems like a big advantage, but early in the game, all it is really 2 big plays, and the Minnesota Vikings do as good a job of playing catch-up football as anybody in the league, and they're going to be dangerous. This thing is a long, long way from being over.
Ricky Young coming out of the ball game. So you have Ted Brown all alone with Terry LeCount wide right, and Rashad and Sammy White on the left side.
They got bump and run on the outside here,
and they go to Brown, and he is hit hard at about the 4-yard line. Ken Fantetti, the middle linebacker, number 57, making the stop. Bud Grant, as we had mentioned, his first year as head coach for Minnesota, he saw the young Vikings lose 4 straight. They have not lost 4 in a row since that time, and he didn't want to have it happen now.
that time they had Sammy White and Rashad on the left side in the slot formation. They were in bump and run. Looked like they could do some work over there. Let's see if they try to this time. Now they got a triple wing over on the left side.
Joe Sensor, the tight end, is over on the left side. In motion is Sammy White. Kramer is looking to the left, throwing to Sensor, and the big tight end makes the reception for the touchdown. Sensor, who had a bad knee and couldn't play last week, catches his 8th touchdown pass.
I hope we can see that again. He does a fantastic job of bumping off of Stan White, number 52. Watch him here. He bumps off and then slides into the open cavity. Watch it. There, you see him bump off and pops right in the open between the linebacker and the defensive back. A great play by Joe Sensor. It wouldn't have happened had he not done what he did as far as the bump is concerned.
And for Tommy Kramer, his 26th touchdown pass, the new Minnesota record. He had already broken Tarkin's record for yardage. kick by Dan Meyer is good. The last time they played in September, Detroit blocked a Dan Meyer point, but not this time, and he's 34 for 37. That's good-looking 25-year-old Joe Sensor, who just caught his 8th touchdown pass, a kid from Westchester State and a remarkable athlete. There's the numbers on the drive, but of course the big play was the interception by Jimmy Allen. He lateraled to James Hunter, who fumbled, and Ted Brown recovered, and that really got Minnesota going. The onside kick gets to about midfield, and that's all, and Detroit holding on to it. James Harrell, number 51, makes the recovery, and Monty Clark has his team now enjoying excellent field position as Harrell made a good save on the onside kick.
I talked to Bud before the game. He said we're going to pull out all the stoppers. We're going to try everything we can try. This is a must game for us. We're going to do everything we possibly can to win it. There was a great illustration. He tries an onside kick. It did not succeed. Now Detroit has an opportunity with good field position.
They have it 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 49. Leading 14-7, 13 and a half minutes to the half. In motion is Freddie Scott. They haven't thrown in the ball today, but they do now, and look out for him passing. He passes down the right, in and out of the hands of David Hill. So Freddie Scott cranked up his first pass of the year, and it was no good. You could sense that coming as he just stopped still when he took the pass from Eric Hipple.
The reason you could tell he was coming, look how deep he is. He wants to make sure that he's deep enough. He throws the ball downfield, and it was one of those kind of passes that could have been caught at either end. It was upside down.
Kurt Knopf comes very close to taking it away from the intended receiver right there, but David Hill's right hand deflected it. 2nd and 10 from the Minnesota 49. Hipple getting his protection down the middle, and what a hit on Leonard Thompson as he makes a great catch. Kurt Knopf almost knocked the numbers off his jersey, and Leonard Thompson makes a great reception.
Watch Leonard Thompson, number 39, coming off the ball, forces a defensive back, number 37, Willie Teal, breaks in front of, in the middle area, had to leap for the ball, did a great job of hanging on once he did get hit, and they have a first down on the 32.
1st and 10 Detroit, leading 14-7. Scott right and Leonard Thompson left. Bussey and Sims, Dexter Bussey with Sims trying to block. Got away from Randy Holloway, and Duck White finally dropped him after a bounce-off attempt by Willie Teal. Not quite enough for a first down, but they're very close. They have to get just about to the 21-yard line for a first down, and they will spot it at the 23. Down is Jeff Seaman, the 10-year veteran from Stanford, who has played in 4 Pro Bowls. Jeff Seaman going off with a bad knee, and we can show you how it happened.
Here we see the takeoff. Number 70 gets off the ball in good shape. Keith Dorney, number 73, blocks the linebacker Seaman. On the play, Bollinger.
2nd and 2 from the Minnesota 23, and there's Billy Sims. And he's down to the 15-yard line, picking up the first down as if he was shot out of a cannon. And meanwhile, Minnesota very gingerly taking a look at Seaman's left knee.
And it looked like that last play was a trap play with a guard pulling. Sims broke through there like he was shot out of a jet and made a nice gain on the play.
For Billy Sims, he has carried 4 times for 28 yards. Eric Hipple is 4 for 5 in passing. 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 15. Second man, that's Billy Sims with Bussey out in front. Mullaney is chasing him, and Mullaney got him from behind, number 77, along with Hannon and Blair.
Well, you talk about a good angle and good pursuit. Mark Mullaney, number 77, as you mentioned, Ben, really did a super job of coming from the outside, from the inside out. Watch him. See, we get a picture here. You see Sims going to the outside. There you see Mullaney in hot pursuit, number 77, taking a good pursuit angle. Number 45, Tommy Hannon, also was instrumental in the good defensive play.
You know, Mullaney is only 6'6" and 242 as he catches Billy Sims from behind. 2nd and 10 from the 15. to shut down the tight end. There's Jeff Seaman out with the bad left knee. The preliminary report is that Jeff has strained ligaments of the left knee and figures to be out for the remainder of the game. That means Dennis Johnson, a 2-year man out of USC, number 52, figures to have his hands full.
Then it looks like the right cornerback, Willie Teal, is playing to the inside. For that reason, Scott ought to be able to do something to the outside if he continues to play the same way.
3rd and 10 on the Minnesota 15. Hill is in motion to the left. Hipple down the middle. Flag on the play. The catch was made by Horace King, but there are flags on the play. Horace King, a very good receiver, coming out of the backfield and hurting his right leg in the process. We'll get the interpretation of the flag from Ben Dreith, who is our referee. Tom Myers, the umpire. Horace King, 7 years out of Georgia.
Defensive holding number 29. First down.
Holding against John Swain, number 29 in Minnesota.
We'll see Horace King pop open in the middle area here. Look, he looks to the left, Hipple does, and throws right down the middle to Horace King, who makes the catch and takes it right on down to about the 3-yard line.
Now they're working on Horace King, who hurt his right leg. 1st and goal on the 2-yard line. Sims and Vince Thompson, the running back. And it will be Hipple looking in the end zone, and he's going to get away from 2 men, but the 3rd finally gets him. He got away from Fred McNeil, lost the ball momentarily, and then stayed with it. Matt Blair finally got him. You know, Hipple is a running quarterback. We ought to remind you of that fact. He has 6 running touchdowns this year, Hank.
Yes, and you know what happened on the play? They tried to bring Thompson all the way over on the other side, thinking he'd be wide open, but he wasn't. And in the confusion of trying to locate a receiver, McNeil was blitzing on the play, number 54, and he's lucky that he escaped without losing the football that time.
So it is 2nd and goal. The ball is back on the 9-yard line. And Hipple going in the right side deep. No good. Intended for Freddie Scott. That's the first ball that they were going to give him today, and he overthrew him. Scott needs 40-some-odd yards, 41, to catch for 1,000. First man to do that since Pat Studstill in 1966.
And they had the right combination they wanted. Scott on Hannon, the free safety. Everything was what the doctor ordered, except the ball was thrown just a little bit too high. That's the kind of a match you want.
And, of course, all of this was set up, remember, as Minnesota gambled on the onside kick, and Detroit took over on the Minnesota 49. 3rd and goal from the 9. And Hipple again down the right side, and again intended for Fred Scott. No good. Tommy Hannon going stride for stride with him. And so Eddie Murray will be asked to kick a field goal. And Murray, one of the outstanding kickers in the league, from this distance would appear to be a cinch.
You have to give Hannon a lot of credit. The free safety of the Minnesota Vikings that time, he covered him very, very well. Had no chance whatsoever to make the play unless Hannon would have had a heart attack on the play and fell down.
Hipple will be holding from the 16. So it's a 26-yard field goal attempt by Eddie Murray, who has kicked 3 better than 50 this year. And that one's a cinch for him. So Detroit got excellent field position on the onside kick and went on to convert for 3 points. And the Detroit Lions now leading Minnesota 17-7 with 9:39 left in the second quarter. In September, they went down to the final 4 seconds when Minnesota and Rick Danmeyer pulled it out with a 20-yard field goal, 26-24 at Minnesota. Now the Lions at home, where they are undefeated this year, leading 17-7. And Ed Murray teeing it up for 35.
One thing about Minnesota, they're a very resourceful team. They do a lot of unusual things, and somehow, some way, they have found a way to win as much as they have, which is a great compliment to Bud Grant and his coaching staff.
The last kickoff went to Tony Galbraith. This one is going to be backed up by crossing the 20-yard line. They bring it out to about the 24. Hey, friends, a reminder while we have a moment, spend New Year's Day with CBS Sports. We bring you number 3 ranked Alabama against number 5 ranked Texas. Bear Bryant's Crimson Tide versus Fred Akers' Longhorns. All starts at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on CBS. Tommy Kramer with the ball at the Minnesota 24-yard line. And his team trailing by 10. Those are his numbers so far today. And remember, even on the interception, he came up a winner when Ted Brown recovered James Hunter's fumble. No good, intended for Joe Sensor. Bud Grant down by 10 with a lot of football left. 9:25 to the half.
You know, it looks like Tommy Kramer is hurrying himself just a little bit too much and has thrown some errant passes for that reason. The front four of the Detroit Lions put a lot of pressure on you, and even though they don't have many sacks, I'm talking about so far in this game, they harass the quarterback and kind of intimidate him a little bit, make him throw before he's ready.
Kramer could very well be pressing because he has thrown 11 interceptions in his last 3 games. He got away with an interception today. Terry LeCount is going to be swallowed up. William Gay and Doug English. Boy, they really put the pinch on him. Gay number 79 and English number 78.
Terry LeCount that time was anchored on the left side. You see English, you see Gay, you see everybody there on the reception committee has no chance whatsoever to make a play.
Well, the ball is back on the Minnesota 20-yard line. That's really a play out of Detroit's foot. Detroit has had 16 end-around plays this year. But Minnesota tried one of their own and it didn't work. Out of a shotgun, Sammy White in motion to the left. Kramer down the middle, and he's got Ahmad Rashad. Rashad was tripped up at the last minute by Jimmy Allen, but he picks up the first down at the Minnesota 39. Big play by Rashad.
And Rashad hadn't been able to work very much all week long. He's got a little case of tendonitis in his foot. It doesn't look like it, though. He's a great move, man. Look, he forces the defensive back, number 29, back on his heels, breaks to the inside, makes the catch. The ball is thrown right on the money, and he was working on James Hunter that time, number 28, really.
It was a 1st and 10 now on the Minnesota 39-yard line. Minnesota can really be rated on whether they have third down conversion. That's Mark Mullaney cooling off on the sideline for Minnesota. In motion is Ted Brown. Kramer in a crowd. Got it to Sensor somehow. Sensor took it away from Ken Fantetti, the middle linebacker, number 57. And that will be enough for another first down.
There's a great illustration from a technical standpoint, Ben, of the quarterback throwing the ball right where it has to be thrown, right at the numbers. You throw it low enough, there's no chance whatsoever for the ball to be deflected. And even though there were 3 people around him, he got the ball through there. Fantetti was right on his case, but he was not able to make the play, number 57.
So starting on their own 24, Minnesota now has a 1st and 10 at midfield. 7 minutes, 9 seconds to the half. Kramer again out of the shotgun. In motion, Sammy White.
Look at all the room on the right side.
They're going down the middle. No good. Well, it'll be a 2nd and 10. It looked like Joe Sensor was the intended receiver, but the ball went by him like an echo.
It sure did. And Terry LeCount was anchored on the right side, one-on-one, had plenty of room, and Tommy Kramer never looked at him at all and didn't get a chance to get him the ball.
One of the great ones, Ahmad Rashad with Minnesota. You can see his receptions in pursuit of Harold Carmichael of the Eagles. And, of course, Carmichael and the Eagles have a date tomorrow right here with Dallas.
And Detroit with 5 defensive backs in the contest at this stage of the game.
2nd and 10 from midfield, Tommy Kramer. Kramer faking and giving to Brown. Brown gets around Stan White and is finally hooked out of bounds at about the 42-yard line. He has to get to the 40-yard line. So they have 2 yards shy on that little bit of trickery.
Kind of a version of the old Statue of Liberty play. He goes back in the pocket, makes a turn to the right. Stan White, number 52, is in hot pursuit, comes across the line of scrimmage, was not able to make the play, and Brown is finally knocked out of bounds on the far sideline after he makes very close to the first down.
You know, when Minnesota wins, they convert 45% of the time. When they lose, they've converted only 30%, and they're after their 4th first down on this drive. 3rd and 2.
Looks like something right.
And it's Ted Brown lunging for the first down, and if they give him his forward progress, it would be across the 40, and that would be enough for a first down. So we'll see where they spot the ball. Very close. If they put it down shy, really, of the 40, it's not going to be enough for a first down. And it would appear now that they're going to put it just shy of the stripe. So it's going to be 4th down.
I'll be surprised if he doesn't go for it. Man, in this kind of a game, I think you have to throw caution to the wind. It's a game he has to win, and I think with good field position like this, you got to go for it.
Well, and looking at Minnesota, there's no change on the field. The kicking unit has not come onto the field. Now, Brewer, a tight end, number 82, coming into the ball game, so that would be a tip-off with Sensor and Brewer in the game, 2 tight ends that they would go for it. Bob Brewer, 3 years out of Montana State, who has bounced around. Waived by San Francisco, originally drafted by Houston. He was in the Dallas training camp. He played 1 game for the Bears, 2 years in the Canadian Football League. He's really been suitcase Bob Brewer.
There you see people coming in and out of the game, getting plays to the sideline from Jerry Burns, who's sending him in. 4th and inches.
Brewer will be the tight end on the left side. Sensor will be the tight end on the right side. Brown and Young are the running back. It is a 4th down in literally inches. Well, we'll see now. Big play for Kramer, and he's asking to back off and try it again. This crowd of 80,000 making it very difficult.
The basic rule of thumb in a situation like this one with just a few inches is for the quarterback to run a quarterback sneak. Now, whether he'll do that or not, I don't know, but in most cases, that's the rule of thumb. Of course, Tommy Kramer has problems with his knees. He might not want to put him in that position, but that's really the formula that you usually express.
In the entire season, if you're interested, Kramer has only rushed with the ball 8 times.
The way they were lined up the last time, it looks like if they don't quarterback sneak it, they're going to run to the left.
All right, Ricky Young and Ted Brown. Brown the fullback. And Kramer not ready, not with this noise.
In the same situation against the Eagles, Jaworski backed out of here 4 times.
And now Detroit asking the crowd to quiet. By the way, remember all the consultation on the sidelines? What happened was there was a technical failure on the Minnesota phones from the bench to upstairs. All right, 4th and about a foot. Ricky Young, first down. So with all of that, Ricky Young, who used to block for Walter Payton at Jackson State and has been doing a lot of blocking for Ted Brown, this time they let Young handle it. He rushed for 87 yards against the Lions, one of his better days in his young career.
You know, that was a surprising call, Ben, because he took the ball from the left side all the way over to the right side and with just inches to go, but they did a good job of blocking on the right side. Joe Sensor, Ron Yeri, and Hamilton, and he made the yardage.
Hamilton pulled and laid a pretty good block on Luther Bradley. 1st and 10 on the 39. Fake to Young. And Kramer has a juggle picked off by Ken Fantetti. And Fantetti, the middle linebacker, brings it up to the Detroit 47-yard line. And is he wild? Big guy out of Wyoming.
57 does a good job of making the interception and doing a good job of running with it after he made the interception.
Ken Fantetti's second interception of the year gives Detroit the ball on their own 47-yard line. 5.5 minutes to the half. And the Lions leading the Vikings 17-7. And you take a good look at the comparison. Look at that -14 for Minnesota. Let's take another look at that play.
Watch Spencer get off the line of scrimmage. He's given a shot there by number 52. And normally Spencer does a good job of sliding. He normally would have slid to the outside. Evidently he did not see Fantetti come in and make the interception.
First and 10 on the Detroit 47-yard line. David Hill in motion to the left. There goes Billy Sims. Fred McNeil turning him back the other way, and there he goes the other way. To the 45, 40, 35. Scott Studwell dragging him down along with John Turner. That's what you get when you turn a play on Billy Sims.
And it's a Amos Fowler, number 65, really made a great block. I don't know whether we'll see it here. Here we see Sims going to the left. Whoop. He goes back to the right side. Couple of missed tackles. Number 72, White missed the tackle. We can't see the block by Fowler, number 65, but he really made a beautiful, beautiful block.
So it is first and 10 on the Minnesota 30-yard line after a fine run by Billy Sims. Sims with Bussey giving the ball to Freddie Scott. And Scott at the 30, still on his feet. And he'll go down at about the 27-yard line. So some trickery that time from Bussey to Freddie Scott on the end around. We mentioned that going into this game, Detroit had 16 times they used reverses or end arounds. Then they had another one.
Yes, that's a little bit of recess football, but in this kind of a game, it's a lot of fun to see, and it can be very, very effective.
It's skins against the shirts here.
Oh, here we go again. Great play by Billy Sims, running to his left. There you see him. McNeil, number 54, overruns the play, decides to go back the other way. White misses. See if we see, there's a beautiful block. We saw the beautiful block by Amos Fowler, number 65.
Rick Kane and Vince Thompson in the backfield. Flags on the play. Pipple deep in the end zone, intercepted by Kurt Knopf in the end zone for a touchback. But wait now and let's see about the interpretation of the flag.
There was a little scuffle on the other side.
Outside, Minnesota.
Offside.
Yep. So it's against the Vikings. Preliminary signal. And of course, Kurt Knopf, who picked off the pass in the end zone, quite bitter about things. That will move the ball to the Vikings 23-yard line.
Defense,
Number 75.
offside.
So that's Randy Holloway trying to get in there. And the 4-year man out of Pittsburgh. Number 75 was caught. That makes it second and 3. The ball is on the 23-yard line, Minnesota. There you go. Okay. Leonard Thompson wide right. Freddie Scott goes wide left. And they go to Billy Sims. He got behind a Dexter Bussey block. He got down to the 18-yard line. Dexter Bussey, number 24, opened the door. And Billy Sims moved for the first down.
At that time, Bussey, number 24, was a lead blocker that time. He knocked the defensive player beyond the hole, and Sims has such great cutback ability. He takes advantage of it. Watch it here. He sees the seam. Bussey was blocking McNeil on the play. Didn't really get a big piece of him, but did enough to keep him from making a play on Billy Sims.
And the roar of the crowd, Billy Sims has broken his own record last year. He has now rushed for 1,307 yards. Vince Thompson cutting back right into the arms of Scott Studwell, number 55, and Studwell drilled it. You know, a moment ago, on that block by Dexter Bussey, it's nice to point out, Bussey is the all-time rusher in Detroit history. He broke all retailers' records, but then he moved over to fullback when Billy Sims came. So a great rusher doing a good job in the secondary role, and he certainly should be commended.
That's a great illustration of a player making every personal sacrifice necessary for team success. That's what it's all about. It doesn't make any difference who does what as long as you win. And this is what Detroit is trying to do here today.
Second down and along, 7 is Hipple. And the 15, he can't find anybody. And Hipple has gone out of the 10 and might have picked up the first down. He just hit across the marker for the first down. It will be first and goal from the 8.
And Billy Sims, number 20, did a good job of blocking downfield. Well, Hippo goes back into the pocket with his first purpose of trying to throw the ball inside, but he runs out of the pocket. Watch Billy Sims, number 20, block McNeil just enough where he's able to make the necessary ready for the first down. Good play by Sims.
Now, Eric Hipple, who has rushed for 6 touchdowns this year, rushes for the first and goal at the 7. Thompson's there again, and he'll be blocking for Billy Sims. Trying to go outside, and coming from behind was Duck White, and meeting up front was Tommy Hannon, and they dropped Sims in his tracks.
Watch Sims again on the flush out of the pocket by Hipple. Watch 20, box number 75, first Holloway. Then he sees Hipple take off and run. He hustles, gets another good block downfield on 54, and enough room for Hipple to make the first down on the play.
He got away with it. And then went downfield and to another block at Brett McNeil. So the second and goal, the ball on the Minnesota 7-yard line. 17-7 in favor of Detroit. And we're down to 2 minutes now out of the half.
Last time they were in this position, they got a little fancy and threw the ball. A couple of times, Sims came off the field a little disappointed. See if they try to run him this time. On a second down and 7.
Freddie Scott and Leonard Thompson wide left.
Bussy and Sims.
And Hippo on a roll with Bussy blocking for Bussy all the way. He touched Freddie Scott.
Yes, he does. Here's a play action fake, but there is no faking. He rolls to his left, and then throws back across the green, all the way over in the right corner. That's to Scott, who is wide open. Makes the reception, touchdown. Detroit line, there it is again, throwing over the top to Scott. Number 87, Freddie Scott, took him into the game, 49 seconds.
So Eddie May makes it 24 for Detroit and 7 for the Minnesota Vikings. And the Lions are sure happy at home. This is Vince Galelo with Hank Strand with 1:54 to the half. Detroit leading 24-7 over Minnesota. And Eddie Murray ready to kick off. 7 players. And of course the big one to Fred Scott for the touchdown. And Murray's going to pop it up down the left side, and it will be Nord. Letting will go out of bounds, which means you'll have to kick it over again. At a halftime, Brandon Earl will be along with highlights and interviews. A look at that New York Jets-Cleveland game when the Jets hung on. Sandy Hill will have an interesting feature with Franz Kwanner and the Eagles, the Philadelphia kind, and endangered species, all coming up at halftime. So Detroit will have the ball at their own 30-yard line, and Eddie Murray will kick it again. Eddie Payton standing at the line, and they just don't want to give him the ball. Keith Nord is to his left. Tony Galbraith is to his right. As we mentioned earlier, Payton had busted one for 99 yards earlier this year against Oakland, and ironically had the greatest day of his career as a member of Detroit. When he was playing with Detroit, he had a 98-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, an 87-yard punt return for a touchdown, all against Minnesota. And now, of course, he's trying to return the favor.
Tony Galbraith is no slouch back there either. He can run it back.
And that one is over Galbraith's head, goes into the end zone. Now they bring it out to the 20-yard line on the touchback, and they're just not going to let Payton touch the ball. They kicked to Galbraith in the first quarter. If they can help it, Payton's never going to touch it. First and 10, Minnesota. On their own 20-yard line. The minute 54 left in the half. 24-7, Detroit. Tommy Kramer, who came into this game with 11 interceptions in his last 3. He has thrown 2 but got away with one of them. And Monty Clark sitting on top of that 17-point lead. Good. A little mix-up there because he threw behind Sammy White, and the closest man to making the reception was going to be James Hunter or Jimmy Allen. So it'll be 2nd and 10 from the 20.
Tommy Kramer was harassed that time. Doug English really got good penetration and made him throw the ball in an errant way, and that's why it fell incomplete.
What must be galling to Kramer, he had thrown only 10 interceptions in the first 9 games, and he's thrown a dozen now in the last 3 games plus this one. No good, intended for Rashad. James Hunter was the man to break it up.
You know, sometime when you hurry yourself as a quarterback, here's Rashad breaking to the outside. The ball is thrown behind it. And number 20, James Hunter, knocks the ball loose. But sometimes, you know, a quarterback starts to throw before he's ready. His feet are not in a position where they should be, and for that reason, he did not throw the ball as accurately as he should.
You see all the wrapping on James Hunter's left arm. He broke that left arm and missed 3 games. 3rd and 10 from the 20. The shotgun. No good. Sammy White. Interesting, Sammy White and James Hunter were teammates at Grambling. In fact, you might remember the story. Sammy White almost drowned in Hawaii, and James Hunter and Sammy White were both swimming at the same time, and White was rescued by the team trainer. A rather fateful day for Sammy White, and now, of course, he and Hunter are head-to-head in opposition. 4th and 10 from the 20, and Greg Coleman punting from the 5. Robbie Martin, who ran a punt 45 yards for a touchdown, is standing on the Detroit 36. And he will come up to get it at the 42. Fumbled, and it is recovered, I believe, by Minnesota. It is. So from the penthouse to the basement, Robbie Martin goes for a touchdown on a punt and then kicks one.
And watch what happened. Robbie Martin didn't catch the ball high enough. It was too low. He's got to catch the ball up by the number so he can see it into his hands. That time he tried to catch it about belt buckle high. Anytime you do that, you're going to have trouble, and that's exactly what happened on the play. That's why he fumbled.
You see them applauding on the sideline and shaking hands with Henry Johnson, number 53, and the man who was primarily responsible was John Swain, number 29, who went down and made the tackle that caused the fumble, and then Swain dived into the pack and recovered. 1st and 10 on the Detroit 44 with a minute and a half left in the half. So Kramer gets a big break to see what he does with it. He's going to go for all of it. No good. Intended for Terry LeCount. Driving there right with him was Hector Gray.
The way they're playing defensively with 5 defensive backs, they're appropriate, I think, then, to throw the ball inside. It looks like they're very concerned about the outside area. It looks like the inside might be vulnerable, and they might be able to make a big play down the middle.
Well, I think Tommy Kramer psychologically trying to catch Detroit a little down after the fumbled punt. So he went for the distance to LeCount and didn't get it, so now he has it 2nd and 10 on the Detroit 44. It is 24-7 Detroit, and Minnesota, a very good team, scoring in the first half with Kramer. Kramer intended for Sammy White, and Jimmy Allen was the man who got his hands on it, number 40. You know, the Vikings, in the last 2 minutes with Kramer at quarterback, have scored in 16 games in the first half. So with a minute and 20, whatever the magic is, he got a big break, and we'll see if he can do it again.
Well, that's the great thing about a team that throws the ball as well as they do. They have a great variety of things in their arsenal as far as how they throw the ball. They're very, very adept at throwing within the framework of the 2-minute offense, which you just mentioned, but I don't think anybody in the league does a better job than this team, and so many teams really do a great job of that.
So it is now 3rd and 10 on the Detroit 44. Rashad and White go left. LeCount goes right. Sensor on the right side. And Kramer again deep down the middle to Sammy White, and no reception. No reception. And I think White might have hurt his left hand.
Well, the way they're playing, as I mentioned earlier, their middle is very, very vulnerable. He was wide open in that area, but the ball was thrown a little bit too far out in front, and he just couldn't hold on.
And now, from the looks of things, it's his stomach. Take a look and see if he knocked the wind out. Made the reception, lost it, and landed heavily. You know, an interesting thing with the AstroTurf we ought to talk about, the fact that Bud Grant and the Vikings will be an indoor team next year, and they're drafting to play indoors. Preceding message furnished by the National Football League. 1 minute and 13 seconds to the half. 24-7 Detroit. And a reminder, Brendan Irv with scores and highlights. A look at that Jet-Cleveland game. We'll have an interview with Franz Klammer. And we'll talk about the Eagles, an endangered species, all coming up. But now suddenly 4th and 10 on the Detroit 44. LeConte and Lewis on the left side. Sensor is now in the backfield with LeConte in motion. Right in and out of the arms of Terry LeConte. It looked like he was going to have a cinch reception.
It looked like he might have taken his eye off the ball right about the time it was coming in. Sometimes that kind of a throw, you think it's going to be easy, you take it for granted, and if you don't look it right into your hands, it's going to bounce right out just like it did here on Terry LeConte. But here again, he throws it right in the middle area, and it went right through like it had some grease on it.
So Detroit dodging a bullet, and Terry LeConte, of course, had one get away. And the Lions take over 1st and 10 on their own 44. A minute and 7 seconds to the half. Detroit 24 and the Vikings 7. Freddie Scott goes left, Leonard Thompson goes right. Both backs release. Hipple over the middle, no good, and Scott Studwell, number 55, had his hand on the ball and deflected it, but of course he was thinking interception.
It's easy to see it from up here and a lot more difficult for the quarterback, but that time Billy Sims was really open in the flat. He never had a chance to look at it, didn't see him, and threw the ball into some traffic that time. Was lucky he wasn't intercepted.
Anybody who saw the Detroit-Green Bay game last week, one of the pictures frozen in the mind was Freddie Scott all alone in the end zone waving to Hipple, who didn't see him. It happened. 2nd and 10 from the Detroit 44. In motion, David Hill, the tight end. That's good to Horace King, grabbed by Matt Blair at the Minnesota 40-yard line. They stop the clock with 53 seconds as they pick up a 1st down. So Horace King, you remember, hurt himself after making a reception, but he's okay, and Detroit calling a timeout. And now here he is holding the hopes of the Detroit Lions. 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 40.
Looks like they could do something left here.
Hipple going deep to the right side to Horace King, and King is going to go out of bounds at the 10-yard line. Keith Nord, the safety on the left side, trying to stay with him and couldn't do it.
Here you see a blitz on the play. Number 59 coming on the play. Doesn't get to the quarterback. The ball is thrown right outside to Horace King, who makes the catch and is finally knocked out of bounds by Keith Nord, number 49.
So Horace King, a fine receiver, has caught 3 balls today. He has caught 21 for the year. And Eric Hipple now with 46 seconds driving for another touchdown. In the end zone to Leonard Thompson. Touchdown. He beat Willie Teal.
That was a long time coming, Ben. It looked like they could do that before they did it, but they finally did do it. And of course, it was beautifully thrown, right on the money, a time pattern, and had to be thrown just like it was, and it was. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
You know, Leonard Thompson was the number 1 NFL receiver last year, averaging almost 27 yards a catch.
Teal has a tendency to work to the inside. That's why the outside is very vulnerable. He got the ball right on the money, in good shape. Touchdown, Leonard Thompson, number 39.
Eddie Murray puts the icing on the cake. And for Bud Grant, as unflappable as he looks, this has to be a humiliating first half. The Detroit Lions 31 and the Minnesota Vikings 7.
There we see it again. Hipple going back into the pocket, throws outside to Horace King.
here with the 12th man. And now their 12th man is the 80,000 in the stands. And what a job.
That's so true, and I have to correct myself. I inadvertently said Horace King instead of Leonard Thompson on the playback.
So it is 1st and 10 for Minnesota, somewhere on this field in the delirium of Pontiac Silverdome. 31-7 Detroit with 39 seconds to the half, and Eddie Payton is still trying to get his hands on the football. Leonard Thompson, who caught a 94-yard touchdown pass earlier this year, has now caught 2 for touchdowns. And this time, Payton will have a chance from the 1. Still on his feet out to the 25. So Eddie Payton, who is the older brother of Walter Payton, brought down by James Harrell, number 51. 33 seconds. And of course, this is why this game is so important. Minnesota and Detroit, each 7-7. Tampa Bay playing San Diego tomorrow, leading at 8-6. And of course, Tampa Bay is sitting as an ideal situation because they have the best record in the conference as well as in the division. Next week, Detroit will go head-to-head with Tampa Bay, and Minnesota will play Kansas City. 33 seconds to the half for Tommy Kramer. And he's going to stay on the ground, and Ted Brown is going to be dropped at the 25-yard line. Before that play even had a chance, Doug English, number 78, was there to bury him. If Detroit should win, and of course they're leading handily, their position now will be out of their hands because tomorrow, if Tampa Bay should beat San Diego, there's not a thing Detroit can do about that. And Tampa Bay would clinch the West, or actually the Central. However, if Tampa Bay should lose tomorrow, then Detroit will have a chance to knock them off right here as you look at Leonard Thompson.
And we saw a great game last week with Tampa and Atlanta. Tampa played extremely well, both offensively and defensively. They're coming on strong. They're healthy. It'll be an excellent game.
So Detroit still has a glimmer. Of course, Minnesota, to win the title, would have to not only win today, they'd have to beat Kansas City. Tampa Bay would have to lose, too. And for Bud Grant and Minnesota, they have dropped back now 31-7 Detroit with 28 seconds to the half. Tommy Kramer, in his early days at Rice, they said his idea of football was chuck and duck. He's had a chuck and duck today. Shotgun from the 25. Rashad unable to get up the ladder, and James Hunter was right there ready to defend, number 28.
And I'm going to tell you something. Curtis Green, the young rookie from Alabama State, number 62, is doing a good job of putting pressure on the quarterback.
And that, of course, is a big assignment for Curtis Green because he is filling in for Al Baker. Baker is out. Baker has 10 sacks. Green, seeing limited duty, has 3 sacks. And they say that if Detroit could win today, Baker might come back for that all-important game with Tampa Bay.
Lloyd Peters, who works for the defense, said before the game to me that he thought that this Curtis Green was a great prospect, and he has 4.7 speed.
Kramer down the middle, and he's got Rashad, but so does Jimmy Allen. And Allen takes him down at the 42-yard line. It's a first down with 16 seconds to the half. In the comparison of the plays, even though Minnesota has had the ball more times, it's the old story, Detroit has done more with it.
Yeah, they've taken advantage of the opportunities they've had, and that's the big important thing that you must, even though you have good field position, it doesn't do any good to have field position if you don't take advantage of it.
Well, it'll be 1st and 10 for Minnesota on their own 43-yard line. That's Wade Wilson, the rookie out of East Texas State, number 11, who's back up to Tommy Kramer. Kramer getting the report. And in a moment, with 16 seconds left, we'll see whether he can hit on one. And of course, Detroit doing a great job in bottling him up. Kramer so far is 10 for 26 for 100 yards, but they have put a lot of heat on him, and he's been intercepted twice.
One thing about a guy like Kramer, he might have a bad quarter or a bad half, but he's got the capacity to come back. He's a fighter, great competitor. He's got the capacity to come back and make things happen, and that could happen. A lot of things could still happen in the second half.
And that'll be the schedule to keep you company at halftime. So with 16 seconds left, 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 43. Rashad is right. Lewis is left, and LeCount in motion. Lewis, number 87, was the man who was the intended receiver. And the note on Leo Lewis, as he comes jogging back, show you how the years go flying by. Leo's father was a teammate of Bud Grant in the Canadian Football League, and now a chip off the old block playing for Bud Grant and the Vikings.
That's a pretty good scouting system.
That's something. He's only 5'8". One-year man out of Missouri, number 87. Remember, Sammy White shaken up and evidently not going to play any more this half, although he is standing on the sidelines and would appear to be okay. We're down to 11 seconds. Kramer going to throw it high and deep, broken up. Boy, there was a pride alliance surrounding Ahmad Rashad on that pass.
And Joe Ehrman really gave Kramer a shot once he delivered the ball. That's one thing about the quarterback position. You know, when the quarterback goes back into the pocket and releases the ball, everybody focuses their attention on the flight of the ball, and they don't see what happens to the poor quarterback. He really got a massage that time by Joe Ehrman, number 74.
So Kramer, who is well put together, he's 6'2", 205-pounder, able to absorb the hit by Ehrman. Now you have a 3rd and 10 on the Minnesota 43. Remember, Kramer, the last time they had the ball, had a 1st and 10 on the Detroit 44 after Robbie Martin's fumble, and he went 0 for 4 with one pass going right through Terry LeCount's arms. And they're going to give it to Ted Brown. And Curtis Green has him by the shirt tail. And that's the half. Curtis Green, the rookie out of Alabama State. Is history, and it has been all Detroit. The Lions 31 and the Vikings 7. It's halftime here at the Silverdome in Pontiac, and indeed it has more than a Detroit flavor. It has been all Detroit for the half, with Detroit 31 and Minnesota 7. I'm Vince Scully along with Hank Stram. Hank, to those people who had been close observers of Minnesota all week, they were saying they had great practices and they really expected the Vikings to have a great game, and instead Detroit has just thoroughly dominated them throughout the first half. Are you often fooled by a team's practice during the week?
Very often, and I was surprised. I shouldn't say I was surprised, but Sid Hartman talked to me before the game and told me how great they looked and how hard they worked and how good they practiced. And every time I hear that from somebody, I kind of wonder what kind of a game they're going to play. And this happens so much of the time. I know it happened to us several occasions when I was with Kansas City. I never forget playing San Diego one year. Our announcer came over and said, you know, the team doesn't look like they're ready to play. It could be a long afternoon. We wound up playing the best game we played all year long. Lenny threw 4 touchdown passes, completed the first 11 that he threw, and we won the game 42-10 or something like that. So you never know.
Well, Rick Danmeyer will be kicking off for Minnesota. Deep for the Lions will be Hall and Martin. And of course, Robbie Martin went 45 with a punt for a touchdown. And this time it'll be Hall. Allen to the 15, to the 20, to the 25. Finally grabbed by Tommy Hannon and knocked out of bounds at the 31-yard line. So a pretty good return. Here's the quarterback comparison again, with Hippel holding his own in all departments. And Kramer with 2 interceptions, although he got the ball back on one of them, remember. The resultant lateral and then fumble and recovery by Minnesota.
But
So
again,
Detroit.
oh, excuse me, Ben, go ahead.
Just going to say 1st and 10 on the 31. Play action fake to Billy Sims. And Hipple intending his pass for Leonard Thompson. No play there. John Turner was all over him.
Watch Mark Mullaney, and we got Dorney, number 70, blocking him. A lot of pushing, a lot of shoving going on, but that's typical of the way pass blocking is with the rules like they are in professional football.
On the sidelines, Ahmad Rashad waiting for a chance to get the football again. But it's been Detroit's ball, and they're trying to keep it 2nd and 10 in their own 31. Billy Sims, flag on the play. Scott Studwell made the tackle at the 34-yard line. And we'll get the interpretation on the play. It'll be against Detroit, and it'll be a holding penalty.
We talked about Tommy Kramer. We talked about him a little bit earlier in the game, but the fact that the score right now is 31-7, you still have to have a great deal of respect in the fact that Tommy Kramer
Holding offense number 65.
has a great capacity to bring the club back. He's done it many, many times, and as well as they throw the football, anything can still happen in the next 30 minutes.
Take a look at the ground game. Ted Brown and Billy Sims. And even though Brown has had the ball 5 more carries, Sims has picked up more yards and a touchdown. So 2nd and 20 from the 21. He got away from Randy Holloway, throws to Sims. Sims with a 1st down and gives John Turner a whack before going out of bounds at the 46-yard line.
You know, one of the great things about Sims, and he's got a lot of great qualities, but one of the things that he does so well, he'll shift the ball and keep it away from pressure so he can use the straight arm and use the shoulder. And here's a great illustration of it. Watch this here. Hipple throws in the ball. Watch him fly down the sideline with the ball away from pressure. Watch him use his arm and see that? See his shoulder. Gets a good blow on number 27, John Turner.
So on a 2nd and 20, Sims picks up the 1st down on the Detroit 46. In motion is David Hill. This time it'll be Kane. Rick Kane out across midfield. Brought down by Gert Mopp at the Minnesota 48. So Sims and Kane with his backup. Bussey gets backed up by Vince Thompson, and then Horace King has come in to make a couple of big catches coming out of the backfield. Kane, an interesting story. When Monty Clark was at San Francisco, Rick Kane was his locker room guard. And now, of course, he's playing for Monty. Number 32, the deep man out of the eye. Hipple going out to the right side and making the reception is Leonard Thompson out of bounds at the 41-yard line. So he'll pick up a 1st down.
This is a good time pattern with Hipple throwing outside to Leonard Thompson, makes a move to the outside. The important thing is that he gets his head around so quickly. The heaviest part of the body is the head. If that comes first, everything else will follow, and that's the reason the execution of the play was as good as it was.
So it is 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 41. Remember, Detroit started on their own 31. They were back to their 26, and they're now in high gear. Billy Sims. Without a glove on him, he picks up the 1st down inside the 25. Amos Fowler, the center, shaken up. Billy Sims really shaking Minnesota.
Yes, and that time Homer Elias, number 61, the left guard, was pulling on the play. Watch him. Number 61, the left guard. Good block by the fullback inside. Sims sees the hole, takes advantage of it, pops through there. Big gain, Detroit Lions.
1st and 10, and the ball now down on the 24-yard line. As Sims picked up 17 with that one. And they'll try Dexter Bussey. And Bussey cutting back is just about inside the 15 to the 14-yard line. Very close to a first down. Dexter Bussey. That's Bussey, we told you, he broke Aldi Taylor's record.
Second and 1.
You know, and that's right. They were using a lot of four-man line, trying to change the personality of their defense, and they ran up and down the field with it. Now they go back to the three-man front.
So he needs less than a yard to pick up a first down. It is second and about a half a yard. Still in motion, Kane and Thompson, the running backs. And Hipple going to set a screen, and that's to Vince Thompson. And Thompson picks up the first down and gets it down to about the Minnesota 7 or 8. And Monty Clark seeing everything go his way. You know, Detroit, when they call in all the free agents at the start of the year, they call it a gong show. And Vince Thompson is one of the survivors of the gong show. And he just caught that pass and makes it a first and goal on the Minnesota 7.
And Monty Clark has gotten a lot of abuse here in Detroit for the way things have gone, but he's done an outstanding job, especially bringing the team back and keeping them on an even keel.
Eric Hipple keeping them on an even keel indeed. First and goal from the 7. Freddie Scott in motion to the right, and they'll go to Billy Sims, and he's to the 4-yard line. So Sims picks up 3.
Right now, Detroit is totally dominating the line of scrimmage, and that's why they're making the yardage they're making on the ground. They're doing a good job up front, and that's what's going on at this particular stage in the third quarter.
The biggest day Sims ever had against Minnesota was in his rookie year in September. He carried for 157 yards. He now has 77. And here he goes again. And they stop him inches short of the goal line. Slowly getting up Matt Blair.
Well, he is strong. It looked like he was going to get stopped way short of that area, but he was able to go in there sideways and get very, very close to the goal line.
It is 31-7 Lions. Sims has carried for 80 yards now. Third down, and the ball is on the 1-yard line. Bussey and Sims. In motion, Leonard Thompson. Sims. Oh, they stopped him.
Here we see a straight ahead shot and a good hit. It looked like it was hard to... We couldn't tell who that was. It might have been... Watch number 59.
Studwell, 55.
55. Studwell comes in and makes that good hit.
Fourth and goal from the 1. And the Lions, leading by 24 points, are going for it. Vince Thompson is in there now, along with Sims. Sims. And on a great fake, Leonard Thompson just carries it over. After Billy Sims went flying through the air and everybody in the house was going after Billy. Detroit looks magnificent.
Yes, they do. They're a hot team. They are a hot team. Watch this. A good selling job inside. Watch the selling job inside, and there's Thompson coming around on a reverse. They take a whiff inside, and he twinkle toes into the end zone for the touchdown. Leonard Thompson.
Eddie Murray trying to come up with his 38th point, and he's right on the money. The Lions 38, the Vikings 7, and there's 9:22 left in the third quarter. 38, Minnesota 7, 9:22 left in the third, as Detroit scored again on 11 plays. Leonard Thompson on the end around coming over to take it in. And everything Detroit does now has come up golden. It'll NFL Today will kick it off. A big day for the NFL on CBS Sports. The Giants will be at St. Louis, Green Bay at New Orleans. And then the second part of the doubleheader, you'll have Chicago at Oakland and Philadelphia at Dallas. That's tomorrow right here. 38-7. It's a shocker. And Minnesota has it first and 10. The ball just shy of the 35-yard line. Kramer to Ted Brown, and Stan White will drag him down with help from Ray Oldham. Back in 1978, the biggest margin of victory, Detroit beat Minnesota 45-14, 31-point margin. And they have them down by that right now, 38-7 Detroit.
The one thing as we watch this game this afternoon, Tommy Kramer has had just enough pressure on him up front that he really hasn't been able to step and throw like you'd like for him to be able to do, and for that reason, he hasn't been as accurate as he normally is.
Second and 6 on the Minnesota 38, and you see Sammy White back in the game. Kramer going to censor, broken up. Gary Cobb, number 53, over there had his hand on the ball and knocked it down. So Joe Sensor, the intended receiver, and Cobb, 3 years out of SC, almost picked it off. In that game in 1978, we told you Detroit winning 45-14. That was the big day for Gary Danielson. He had 5 touchdown passes against Minnesota. Eric Hipple has thrown 2 touchdown passes today. Third and 6 from the Minnesota 38. Sammy White, Ahmad Rashad, and now Terry LeCloud in motion to join Joe Sensor. Some heat from Joe Ehrman, but Kramer throwing the pass out of bounds. Intended for Terry LeCloud. So Kramer is really struggling now. He has completed only 11 out of 31.
Very difficult to throw when they know you're going to throw, and especially when you're trying to play comeback football when it's 38-7. They do that very, very well, but when they can flop those ears back and come after you, it really makes it difficult.
Robbie Martin, who ran a punt back for a touchdown, 45 yards, also fumbled after taking a punt on a dead run, standing inside the Detroit 20-yard line, and Greg Coleman will be punting from about the 28. To the 16-yard line, and he is buried immediately by Nord. Keith Nord, the wideout down there to hit Martin. No sooner did he touch the ball, Martin hit the deck. Detroit 38, Minnesota 7, 8:07 in the third. The CBS eye is indeed on Billy Sims, who has rushed for 80 yards today to establish a new Lion record, breaking his mark of last year. The Lions have it first and 10 on their own 12-yard line, and they moved it out to the 16. And Eric Hipple puts it in play, and here goes Billy Sims. And he got outside, chased by Willie Teal, and Teal pushed him out of bounds at the 47-yard line. With one burst goes 35 yards to get him over the 100 mark, 121, the 7th time a 100-yard game. Let's take another look, Hank.
High formation again, and they get a cutback block on number 52, Dennis Johnson. He breaks all the way over to the other side with the ball away from pressure. Watch the straight arm.
In live action, in the middle of all of that is Vince Thompson, who's being drilled to the ground. He got the ball just about to the 49.
You know, the amazing thing about what happened in the first half, Ben, you talk about how important first and 10 is. The Detroit Lions had the ball 17 times on first and 10 and made 4 yards or more only 3 times. The Minnesota Vikings had it 16 times on first and 10, made 4 yards or more only 3 times. So it's crazy how things work out.
Billy Sims having a magnificent day. And you have second Minnesota came up with the football, they're going to lose it.
And I tell you, Hippo already, you talk about drilling the ball. He got it in there between a lot of people to Leonard Thompson.
To the 34 of Minnesota. We'll find out who roughed Hippo.
Defense roughing the passer, number 65. That's a first down.
That's Neil Elshire, who's a rookie out of Oregon. And here's the reception.
Watch Thompson going down the numbers, breaks to the inside. The ball is thrown right at the shoulder pads. Between three people, the ball is jarred loose, but there's a penalty on the play.
First and 10 on the Minnesota 34. Rick Kane trying to spin out of the grasp of Matt Blair, unable to do it. Maybe picked up 2, it'll be 2nd and 8.
Came into the game second rushing in the National Football Conference, and they're showing why they're second with the way they're running the ball and controlling the line of scrimmage at this stage of the game.
And one of the crowd's favorites, as they post that Billy Sims has rushed for 7 100-yard games this year. Dexter Bussey is in there with Rick Kane. Bussey is the fullback.
Trying to break open, get open in the end zone. The ball is thrown over the top. A collision again by John Swain, but they don't call it. Watch Hippo. Watch Hippo. Moves out of the pocket, throws the ball, and gets a shot in the back by Mark Mullaney, number 77.
So it'll be 3rd and 8 on the Minnesota 32. Thompson and Rick Kane are the running backs. And Hippo in a crowd makes a completion to Rick Kane coming out of the backfield. And Kane is down at about the 23-yard line. That will be enough for a first down for Detroit. They sure are thinking about Christmas.
It's like Christmas came early for the Detroit Lions.
First and 10. And of course for Bud Grant, humbug.
Sadness.
First and 10 on the Viking 23. Here goes Dexter Bussey, and Scott Studwell hit him first. Then he was really drilled by Sendline and by Elshire. And it's nice to see number 57 back in the game, Robin Sendline. You might remember way back at the very beginning of the game, Sendline was really shaken up, but he's back in there.
Who was it that once said it's better to give than to receive? I don't think Bud would agree with that.
Not now. So it is 2nd and 10 on the 23. 4:57 left in the 3rd quarter. The Lions 38 and the Vikings 7. Tracy Porter along with Fred Scott wide right. And they're going to the right side, intercepted by Swain. And John Swain is at the 20, and what a hit he took at the last minute. And it will probably be a penalty against Carl Baldischweiler, number 76, who almost took his head off. Let's see, the flag was thrown instantaneously with Baldischweiler making contact, so let's see if that's it. Personal foul against Detroit. If it's 76, it's against Baldischweiler.
I'm sure that's what it was, man.
Personal foul on a defense, number 76. Unnecessary roughness. First down.
Well, it was rough. Here's John Swain, and watch, there's the hit.
I don't think it was anything intentional. I think he was just trying to make a tackle and wound up hitting him high.
4:33 left in the 3rd quarter. the quarterback's job is never done.
There's another shot of the hit. Now here's a quarterback, and you think after he throws the ball, he stands around like a cigar store Indian. That's not the case. He throws an interception, and watch, he has to follow up in case he's a safety valve and has to make the tackle. He manages to stay away from any contact, but he's still trying to be involved in trying to tackle a guy with a ball.
First and 10 on the Minnesota 36 on the interception and penalty. Tommy Kramer going over to the left side to Sammy White. Boxed in and dropped by Wayne Smith at about the 41-yard line. So with all of that, they pick up maybe 5 yards, and it'll be 2nd and 5. On the sidelines, Gary Danielson wearing a helmet and loosening up. So evidently, Gary, who almost got into last week's game, Monty Clark saying that he was thinking about making a switch, but then stayed with Hipple. Looks like Gary's coming in. 2nd and 5 on the Minnesota 41. Kramer again to Sensor, and Sensor goes out of bounds at the 44. So they pick up 3, and it'll be 3rd and 2.
This would really be a good time to get people out of the game to make sure nothing happens to him, and also will give Gary Danielson a chance to get some playing time, and he hasn't played for a long time.
I'll tell you a fellow who hasn't played. How about the punter? Tom Skladany has not gotten in the game. It has been such a dominant game for Detroit that Skladany, whose wife delivered a baby girl last night, hasn't really had much to do but pass out cigars on the sideline.
Are you sure he's here?
Yeah. Sammy White in motion. Kramer to Sensor, and he's out of bounds. Jimmy Allen taking him down at the 47-yard line of Detroit, and they pick up a 1st down. 3:46 left in the 3rd quarter. Detroit scored first and has just run away with things. Minnesota trying to come back and get off the floor. 3:46 left in the 3rd. 1st and 10 on the Lion 47. LeCount goes right. Rashad wide left. And Doug English in the backfield.
We talked about Doug a little earlier, but it was a treat to meet his mother and dad before the game. Really nice people.
And his sister Tina singing the national anthem. I guess that was the keynote for Detroit. Everything going their way today.
Encroachment on the defense, number 78, made contact.
So that'll put it at the 42-yard line. Doug English, 5 years out of Texas. Interestingly enough, Detroit has gotten some pretty good news from the league office. We'll tell you about that in a moment. On a 1st and 5 from the 42. Flag on the play, and Kramer is going deep down the right side. LeCount unable to hold on to it. We'll get the interpretation on the flag, which came early on the left side. And to get the idea, it might have involved James Hunter and Ahmad Rashad, but we'll see. You know, earlier this year, William Gay was ejected and fined $2,000 for spearing Lynn Dickey of Green Bay. Later on, Doug English was fined only $200.
False start, offensive. The line was moving.
English was fined $200 in a scuffle Thanksgiving Day with Kansas City tackle Roger Taylor and ejected. And normally when you're ejected, it's an automatic $500 fine. And Al Baker was ejected by Pat Haggerty, a late hit on Chicago quarterback Vince Evans, and he found out no fine. So things are fine in Detroit. 1st and 10 on the line 48. And White on a blitz. A short pass to Sammy White. He came back to get it, and then he is drilled by Ray Oldham at about the 17-yard line. So White made him get rid of it in a hurry, and White came back to get it.
Yeah, everybody but the coaching staff was coming and blitzing on the play, and he anticipated it. Look, he got rid of the ball on top. It was a little short. Watch White come back for the ball, and comes up, winding up, making a big play. Sensor downfield, number 81, trying to help out on the play. Watch watch everybody coming now, rushing the quarterback. And he gets rid of the ball just in time. Big play, Minnesota Vikings.
First and 10 on the Detroit 17, and the pass to White inside the 10. There's a flag on the play. So Sammy White, who was shaken up in the waning minutes of the first half, has come back and made a tough catch in a crowd inside the 10-yard line. And the penalty will be against Detroit. There's Eric Hipple resting after a job well done. He completed 13 of 21 for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns passing. We talked before about the fact that Skladany has not punted once for Detroit.
Defense holding number 44, decline a penalty. It's second down.
That's Wayne Smith guilty of the infraction. Billy Sims, who has had a magnificent day, rushing for over 100 yards, getting a well-deserved rest on the sideline. We showed you briefly Minnesota's inability to keep the football. Touchdown, then an interception, a punt, a loss of possession, and another punt. Second and 2 on the 7. And they go to Ted Brown. And it would appear that Brown has just about picked up the first down.
That time Purifour came in there that time. Look how quickly he got penetration. He almost stopped the exchange. He was through there so fast. And Brown was lucky to get back to the line of scrimmage.
So it's first and goal on the Detroit 7-yard line. White and Rashad go left. Simpson now is just about a wingback.
And Rashad's got bump and run on the outside here. They might go to him. There they go.
They're going to go in the end zone to Rashad, and he overthrew him. And holding his hands in the air, James Hunter.
Here's a good shot of the bump and run. Rashad on 28, Hunter. The ball has to be thrown to the outside shoulder as the defensive back is looking to the inside. He does not see the ball, but the ball was thrown too far out in front and falls incomplete.
2 minutes and 4 seconds left in the third quarter. 38-7 Detroit. And Minnesota, after a John Swain interception starting on their own 36, now has its second and goal at the 7 of Detroit.
Got the same thing again with Rashad one-on-one. I'd go right back to him.
That's Galbraith in motion to the right. He's going right over the middle. No good. And that was partially deflected. And there's a flag on the play.
And for that reason, it was not a penalty. There you see Fantetti, number 57, gets a piece of the ball that flies out of the end zone. No penalty on the play.
Oh, it is third and goal on the 7. Resting on the sidelines, tight end David Hill, 6 years out of Texas A&I. Third and goal from the 7. 38-7 in favor of Detroit. Sammy White. Kramer going to scramble, and he's going to pay for it. Coming in on the left side is Bill Gay, and then Doug English.
He's trying to hit Rashad on the right side this time against bump and run. Now watch Gay, number 79, come in and make the tackle. A good response on the part of William Gay, number 79.
So they had a first and goal on the 7. Now it is
something. Oh.
So the Viking bench must be in shock the way this day has crumbled. And, of course, it's a spirit of euphoria here in Pontiac for the Lions and for their fans. Penalty out to the 17-yard line.
Offense, pass interference, number 85.
Well, that's Sammy White. After the pass went for the apparent touchdown to Ted Brown. So 1 minute it was 1st and goal on the 7. Now it is 4th and goal on the 17. Left in the third quarter. LeCount and White are left. Rashad and Sensor on the right side. Kramer over the middle, too high. Intended for Sammy White, and White's going to claim interference. And evidently he's not going to get it.
And look how fast Kramer got into the end zone. He didn't look like he had any trouble with his knees on that play.
Well, they're all over Tom Myers claiming interference. Sammy White furious. Take another look.
Sammy White goes in motion from the left side to the right side. Terry LeCount, number 80, makes an outside move. We don't see the play. We don't see really what happened.
So with 1 minute and 14 seconds left in the third, 38-7 in favor of Detroit.
And the field judge evidently ruled that the ball could not be caught. No penalty as a result.
And now Gary Danielson is at the helm for Detroit. 1st and 10 from the 17. Rick Kane and Dexter Bussey are the running backs behind Danielson. And he goes to Dexter Bussey, and Bussey powers it out to about the 22-yard line. There's Gary Danielson's career, 5 years out of Purdue. He was a free agent and working in a sheet metal plant when he had his tryout with Detroit. The biggest day of his career, as we mentioned, 3 years ago, he had 5 touchdown passes against Minnesota. 2nd and 5 from the 22. No good, and Willie Teal felting the intended receiver, and the crowd unhappy about it. Being driven out is a rookie, Tracy Porter, number 89, who took the hit. Minnesota leading the series, but Detroit enjoying one of its greatest days ever. Leading by 31 points, and we have 35 seconds left in the third quarter. Robbie Martin is in motion to the left. Danielson has his big tight end, Ulysses Norris, go to the 31. Sendline and Blair bring him down. And there will be a holding penalty against Detroit to nullify the completion.
You know, ironically enough, as much as they throw to the tight end, David Hill came in with 30 catches. That's the first catch in this game by a tight end.
Ulysses Norris, and they take it away from him. So for the preliminary signal, holding against Detroit.
Offense, holding, number 55.
And, of course, that's Tom Tenor. Well, Gary Danielson getting in a little work after Eric Hippel piled Detroit to a 38-7 lead. 22 seconds left in the third. 3rd and 16 from the 12. And the reception is made at the 30-yard line. Tracy Porter, and that'll be just enough for the first down, I believe.
Well, you talk about a great catch. That was very, very low. It didn't look like
start the fourth quarter, Detroit enjoying a feast day, leading 38-7. Hank, when you had a ball club taking a beating like this, what'd you do?
I got him in a big circle and I said, repeat after me.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's about all you can do.
First and 10 on the Detroit 30-yard line. Look at the yards rushing. For the start of the fourth quarter, Kane and Bussey behind Danielson. And Dexter Bussey is tripped and goes down at about the 25. So Bussey trying to get outside right, tripped and went down, a loss of about 3. They're spotted at the 27. Second and 13 on the 27. Detroit has led all the way. Of course, it was an interesting note going into this game. Detroit had led in every game it played this year, and yet they lost 7 of them. It has been all Detroit. Play action fake by Danielson, and he lets it go, and it is Vince Thompson. And Vince Thompson is finally brought down by Willie Teal at about the 37-yard line. He has to get to the 40 for a first down.
That was a nice looking play action fake that time. They faked inside, and Thompson, number 38, was open in the flat area, and the ball was thrown right on the money. Watch the fake. Really was a very poor fake. He didn't even try to get the ball inside, but looked and deliver the ball right on the money to Vince Thompson, number 38. He threw it exactly where you like to throw it, right at the numbers.
Thompson, a big man. He is 230. He's out now. Kane is in there with Bussey. And Danielson throwing incomplete. There was movement up front. Doug Martin was moving around, and if they call 79, then he was picked off. Offside, Minnesota. I think you'll see 79 come up and out of his stance. Meanwhile, we'll look at the heat that Danielson gets.
Defense offside.
Mark Mullaney.
First down.
Well, Mullaney stood Danielson on his ear, but because Martin was guilty of offside, Detroit has a first and 10 on their own 42. Time left 13 and a half minutes. Vince Thompson, but he runs into a swarm of Vikings. The big guy at 230 isn't about to go down easily.
And Minnesota is now playing and has been playing with 4 defensive linemen instead of the 3-4, trying to get a little bit more muscle up front as far as the running defense is concerned.
Way back in the first half, Hank, Minnesota gambled trying to get back. Remember the onside kick? They gave Detroit possession and they moved on. That might be considered one of the many turning points in this game.
Yeah, you could talk about that as a turning point, but the way the game has gone, really, Detroit has really dominated the contest, and they've expressed a lot better balance. And in a game like this one, I think the team with a better balance is going to be the team that usually wins.
And the Detroit story, virtually unbeatable at home. 6-0 this year, tying for number 7 today. 12-2 at home in the last 2 years. Of course, they've only won once on the road. They were 1-7. Their only victory was at Chicago. Boy, when the Lions are home, look out. And they are home next week against Tampa Bay. Danielson bobbing and weaving, and down he goes. Send line number 57 and Yakovonis, 91, bringing him down.
Danielson going into the pocket does not have the escapability skill of Eric Hipple. Doesn't have much of a chance. He's surrounded by white jerseys, and number 91, Yakovonis, finally makes the tackle.
So on a 4th and 15, Tom Skladany, his first punt of the day. The brand new daddy, his wife gave birth to a baby girl, Erin Lee, last night. Skladany hitting it almost line drive to Peyton at the 30, to the 35, and he's going to stay right there. Just missing him was Leonard Thompson, who went flying by. We'll be back with more from the Pontiac Silverdome after this word from your local station. Left in the ball game, 38-7 in favor of Detroit. The Vikes put it in play, 1st and 10 on their own 36. White and Lewis left. LeCount goes right. And it'll be Ted Brown. He threw off the tackle of Steve Furness and moved out across the 40-yard line. He just threw Furness away. You know, Hank, we mentioned earlier the fact that Minnesota's future at home will be indoors. So suddenly, Bud Grant, Mike Lynn and company will be drafting more or less for AstroTurf and indoors as opposed to the familiar Vikes slugging it out in the snow and bad weather.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll probably take, if they're good athletes, people from the southern part of the country instead of worrying about getting people who like to play in this kind of weather. The pass was deflected and caught by Ted Brown, and then he took the hit from Wayne Smith, Steve Furness, William Gay, and it's been that kind of a day. They complete the pass, and they're going to lose a lot of yardage on it. One thing, talking about playing inside, it's got to help Minnesota because they throw the ball so much. It's going to be a lot more efficient for them to throw the ball inside consistently. Plus the fact that it really helps the place kickers.
And of course, one of the great ones here is Eddie Murray, and Rick Ganmeyer will have the advantage of kicking off the run next year. 10:27 left in the game. No good. Terry LeCount unable to hold on to it. James Hunter making the hit, and there's a flag on the play. Hunter with that left arm, which he had broken earlier this year. And the penalty against Detroit. Legal use of the hands against the Lions will move the ball out to the 40-yard line.
Defense illegal contact number 52. That's a 5-yard penalty and a first down.
That's Stan White, guilty of the infraction.
From an overall standpoint, the Detroit Lions really did a good job earning the game of confusing the quarterback, Tommy Kramer. They gave him one look, and then before the snap of the ball, went to another look, and it created a lot of confusion, I think, as far as the reads are concerned, and made it very difficult for the young quarterback, Tommy Kramer.
So he has it 1st and 10 on the 41 on the automatic first down. Tony Galbraith in there now to block and now releases. And Kramer's going to be hit by William Gay and dropped at the 35-yard line. And he helped Kramer up. William Gay with his 6th sack. He was a tight end at SC.
Watch number 79, William Gay, getting off the ball, off the line of scrimmage, using his hands to good advantage, knocks the offensive tackle to the outside, rushes to the inside, and makes a play, and he's working on Ron Yeri, number 73.
So it'll be 2nd and 16 on the Minnesota 35. Sidelines, Hector Gray had it just go through his fingertips.
Not much fun being a quarterback when you're behind like they are right now, 38-7. You have to throw. They know you're going to throw. They put a lot of pressure on. It's really murder.
The Lions with the Viking head on a stick, and that cigar must have been passed out by Tom Skladany. So 3rd and 16. On the Minnesota 35. The Vikes send Lewis and White left. LeCount and Sensor right. Kramer to Sammy White. Juggled and can't hold on to it. White took a punch from Jimmy Allen after James Hunter had played a part in it.
That was one of the few times Tommy Kramer really had a good chance to step up into the pocket and deliver the ball, and when he did that, he delivered it right on the money to White, but he just couldn't hang on to it.
Take another look at it.
Watch Tommy Kramer now. Watch him. He goes back into the pocket, and watch him step up and throw. Good position, good form, delivers the ball to Sammy White, but Sammy just cannot hang on to it.
So on a 4th and 16 from the 35, Greg Coleman will be punting from the Minnesota 25, and Robbie Martin standing back on the Detroit 21. Coleman gets it away, and a fair catch is signaled. Robbie Martin hauling it in at the 15-yard line. So Detroit will put it in play. Vikings stew, that's what it's been today. All Detroit, 38-7. 9 minutes and 23 seconds to the end of this one that has seen Detroit thoroughly dominate the Vikings, leading 38-7. And the Lions will put it in play on their own 15. Gary Danielson at quarterback. Kane and Bussey are the running backs.